Exposition! Glorious exposition! Finally. It's really way too late to really say Ghost, but it's something. Still, I gotta start with Zyuohger and all of this, and that it's continuing the Misao development arc and how he's driving situations for the rest of the cast. This time, he gets depressed after he experiences a bike exploding, and first off, before it explodes, he actually touches it after seeing it laying on the ground, and he gets this shocking spark zap, which eventually leads into the revelation that, as we've addressed before, that he can feel Gunmiser's effects on things by touching them with his hands. He is very good with his hands! I love this pun. I seriously love this pun, especially with how he made the little stuffed animal versions of the Zoomin in this. But because the bike explodes right after he touched it, he thinks that somehow he's gained the ability to explode things with his hands. This is absolute silliness, and his, admittedly, the uber-depressed person at the drop of hat thing is going to get old fast if they continue just having that be the gag. I'm admitting it's getting to wear on me right now. But, you know, for the setup of he's legitimately that gullible to believe he's responsible for this, yeah, that works for me. You just need to use it more sparingly, is what I'm getting at. You know, don't just keep using the same joke varied up. At the very least, it's going, it's still using it well for story potential, because the others are getting frustrated with it, you know, acknowledging that it's a troublesome aspect that they just have to put up with. They think he's just overreacting to, and there's another cause, but, admittedly he is, because then the others sense the Galleon that's doing this, who is spouting something about illusion powers, and does that mean the explosions are illusions? No, that can't be, because the things actually blew up. So, what is the illusion when he's actually transforming things literally, and, you know, transforming it so it's made up of an explosive substance, despite retaining its previous form? I'd say it's his powers to transform things, because he later transforms a bunch of fighters into his own personal set of armor, kind of like a stage magician. Now, admittedly, I like the whole stage magician gimmick because it ties into the theme of Zyuohger's movie, which is a circus, and, you know, that feeds into the whole circus act thing of the coming movie, which is a good way to subtly tie into all of that, even though he's not going to be an antagonist of that film. It's just the thematic consistency that I like to see. But, yeah, the thing just keeps turning things into explosives, which, admittedly, the others don't, Misao is not immediately tipped off to him not being the one responsible. They actually have to, you know, walk him up to seeing things exploding that he didn't touch for him to kind of snap out of this funk of his. So it's again playing off of a bit of his own gullibility and how it's not always so easy to make someone change their mind or get out of a funk when they've already committed to a way of thinking, a way of seeing things. And I'll admit I'm a victim of this. I shouldn't say a victim. I'm guilty of this too at times. You know, with, like, I go back and forth on a lot of things. I always try to clarify why I go back and forth on some things, like why I both like and dislike certain toyetic things, so there's a bit of consistency on it. It's just, opinion and experience based with all that. And, you know, Misao's still on the funk over being used by, Janice, so, it's still workable. But it's eventually, they eventually figure out that, Misao's ability to touch things is actually the whole key to the episode, as the monster then reveals that it transformed something else into a massive explosion that will take out the entire city. So once they connect from another incident, because to connect the dots of what this power might be to what Misao is actually doing it. In other words, once again, they're being smart. They don't know why Misao's thinking up like this, but there's progressive realizations among the cast of, from with their history with Yamato stuff, with his sight and his secondary sensing ability for the Death Galleons, that Misao has to be developing a similar power. And like I've kept saying, that all of their powers are in different ways, not in different, that they each have a power tied to a different means of sense, is very good for keeping things diverse and them all contributing in different ways, which continues to keep Zyuohger's keep with Zyuohger's mission statements of this being an actual team, considering as I've said, the last few series have been varying degrees of worship the Red Ranger. Yes. So yeah, they use Misao's new touching powers to try and find out what it is, and, first he's pumped that he's actually contributing and can save people and help people with this gift he's been given by his horrible experience, but then he, of course, goes back to his funk when he realizes he can't find it. And then the building he props himself up against to do his lament actually proves to be the building that has been turned into explosive. That was a totally good humorous payoff for that. I admit it's kind of contrived, but whatever, I'm rolling with it. And, I missed the specific line that led him into just getting so enthusiastic to go curb stomp the monster himself, but eventually the others do get in on it, and they note that Misao's weak point, his bipolar attitude towards things, also proves to be his greatest strength. So, it's a double-edged sword on that, as if he's not in the right mindset, he's useless, but when he's pumped up and ready and, I don't want to say reckless, but, yeah, when he has confidence in himself, he is going a bit more wild than he should be, and without, not completely ignoring the others, but he does charge in a bit without backup. Which, hey, since the others are right there, I'll grant him he's not being totally idiotic about it. So, still better than we've had the last few years. But the real highlight of this is the first 13-point combination mecha in Super Sentai. I'm not kidding. This is, before this, the greatest we had was G12 formation, Engine O G12. And admittedly, I love Engine O G12 for how it's absolutely ridiculous, but Wild Tosai King beats it by a mile. I mean, the numbers all across its body are a bit silly, but with how it's structured, it's so more workable than a lot of modern Sentai mechs where the ultimate combinations just become clusterfucks. Yeah. But it's 13... I count it as 13 as it's the main Zyuohger's 6 main cube mechs, not 6 main cube, the 5 main Zyuohger's 6 cube mechs that form Zyuo King and Zyuo Wild, as Zyuo the World's 3 main cube mecha, and then all 4 of the auxiliary cube mecha, the giraffe, the mole, the bear, and now the bat. Those all connect to ports on its legs and can be additionally used for weapons, on top of the thing that steers down into Zyuo King to create its head, and the cannon weapon from Zyuo Gorilla. And it looks great. It really, really does. And I seriously want one. I mean, I do not have the money to blow on, like, I think about $200 worth of undersized toys, but it's legitimately one of the best looking Sentai combination mechs we've had in a long time, in my opinion. especially with how it looks on the show. It's just so functional. That's part of the thing with this show. The mecha looks so good all of the time in the show, even though they're composed of blocks, and yet they completely work. It's kind of an odd dichotomy. But yeah, it was worth it, because to see that in action, that was a really effective fight scene, well choreographed as well, even though it was a bit short. But overall, another win for Zyuohger on that. Ghost, on the other hand, yeah, we finally got exposition. I was complaining just last week about this, on how the show has been terrible with exposition, and I think Keiichi Hasegawa just finally said, screw it, I'll give it, since the main writer's not going to bother with doing it at all. So we get time with Magister Edith, the counterpart to Sage from the Gamma world, and he finally explains what the hell is going on with the Gamma world and the people in the Gamma icons and their pseudo-ghost thing and the Great Eye, and I'm amazed they fit in as much exposition as they did, because they meandered for about 10 minutes before they finally gave us it. First with a before opening sequence previously on segment. Again, why did they change the structure of the episodes when you had a thing going for you for the rest of the series? Well, it really starts off with Akari worrying about Takeru, and that they're down to 19 days, so he's almost going to be dead permanently, and apparently now everyone is banking on Takeru because he's got some sort of connection or key to the Great Eye, which I admit might finally give us some form of explanation about Mugen being granted to him by the Great Eye due to the compassion he showed through the when he communed with it to save Kanon early in the series. If that is the actual explanation, it will have come far, far too late to really save Grateful, because Grateful's debut was awful, all three of them. But, it's something. Which leads into the Adele thing, in that Edith tries to stop him from communing with the Great Eye, because that will corrupt it further. And also, actually, that doesn't make as much sense as we thought, considering it all proves to be a big contradiction from what we now learn about the Gunmisers. See, the Gunmisers were artificial life forms built by Edith to guard the Great Eye from being communed with, and to essentially just safeguard the Ganma world in the way they set it up. And by set up, I mean Emperor Adonis, the ruler of the Gamma world, set this up with Edith about 150 years ago, and to prevent anyone from feeling pain or dying or just losing life. And this was apparently caused by Adonis losing his wife and youngest child, who were introduced last arc episode as Adele and Auron's younger brother. And that brother is going to be the villain of Ghost's movie. Because of course he is. But at least this, instead of just a throwaway line, this provides context. This is what Takuro Fukuda has been screwing up all season, and what Keiichi Hasegawa has been having to cover, and badly, when he finally gets the opportunities to do these bits. And yes, this is the Keiichi Hasegawa episode, and he's the one finally giving it to us. Where was I? Getting off track. Yeah. Edith explains the whole Gunmiser thing was to allow them to perpetually evolve to deal with any threat, and they started to become fixated on Takeru, and Adele's pretty much just been letting them do what they want because he thinks they're the key to his power, when really the Gunmiser are using him to facilitate their own evolution because Edith and potentially Sage have been plotting the downfall of the Gunmisers simply because Adonis realized that after they set up their utopia, that the power required to keep it sustained has been feeding off and destroying the humans in stasis one by one. So they've been trying to get it to shut down. And this presumably is where Ryu comes into this, where he was supposed to commune or capture, create the ghost icons to counteract the Gunmiser to stop this and in turn stop the invasion plan. The invasion plan being all Adele and Igor's doing to reinvigorate the Great Eye and pretty much just use human life energy as a means of powering their own systems, and so it's not sacrificing their own people, it's sacrificing the people of this other world. That is inconsistent with the other presentation of the Demiya project, where from what we've seen before, you thought they were just trying to turn it into another Gamma World Utopia with everybody in the stasis system and hooked up to the Matrix as immortal Gamma people, when no, this exposition contradicts all of that in saying they were just going to use them as a power source. Admittedly, it's consistent and yet inconsistent. With the Hasegawa stuff, they have been stealing the souls en masse for some other means or gains that have always been thwarted by Takeru and company, whereas Takaru Fukuda was the one to really introduce the Demiya project towards the soul unification, the same way the Gamma world is unified stuff. So once again, we kind of have conflicting writer directions on this. Admittedly, most of this is from memory and over the course of a year of watching this show, so I might have a few of my details crossed, but it seems odd to me that this does not seem to be presented consistently. Consistency is all I ask for, friends. They still have not explained the Makoto clone, who is, of course, now back, but we know it's a minion of Adele, so I still have no idea how they did that yet, because they can't do the cloning technology. They only have souls, unless this is a mask over which they're placing other Gamma superiors, just mapping the form onto them for this deception to exhaust whatever's going on with Deep Spectre, because the overuse of Deep Spectre seems to be killing Makoto. We don't have an explanation for that yet. So, at least we got some narrative progress here with explaining a bunch of this crap we should have had explanations for a long time ago, and I'm still docking points for not covering all this other stuff. Maybe, since this is an arc episode they're going in the interim of, the rest of this stuff will be given next week, but I'm not going to give the show props for finally giving us something they should have done ages ago, if that's at all clear. Especially with the direction they seem to now be heading with Takeru using defeat equals friendship with Adele, which is absolutely in no way validated with what's been happening, and especially since he's kind of refused the awakening of the soul, not awakening of the soul, awakening emotional responses to, it's like hostility towards any type of that corruption when, they're kind of ruled by it. So it's like the best they can do is point out the hypocrisy and then hope they self-destruct instead of last-minute redemption, and then shock of all shocks, the Gunmiser have become their own entities, so now we really need to defeat them since their pawn is now dead. I really hope they don't do that, because that is awful and cliched, and that is likely what they're going to do anyways. Don't quote me on that. I'm just speculating at this point. So yeah, it's better than the last several the last long stretch of the show we've gotten, but it really feels like it's too little too late to really fix a lot of the wasted time and events, since had we gotten this 10 episodes ago, possibly alongside Mugen, then we could have just let the plots of the day play, and just been waiting for the end game to culminate with finally communing with the Great Eye. That's not what happens. They did nothing for almost 10 episodes. Nothing that really mattered to progressing the plots, and anyone but Aran, who, hey, he came in 15 episodes late towards actually having something tangible of character. At least they gave him something. Oh my god, I'm defending the show I've been ragging at for weeks now. That's never a good sign. If you've not seen it on Daily Motion, we are currently running through Zyuohger. We will be discussing Barai this coming weekend, so if you're not keeping up with the show, check it out now. See y'all next week.